What is up? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, however you're watching, however you're following the Ben Garcia Show, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts for free, on the iHeartRadio app, or you're putting a face to the voice and you're watching on YouTube. We appreciate that as well. Not at the Fox Sports 910 radio studios today, in the normal place where we're normally shooting these. In my apartment. We got a lot of things to talk about. Just came back from Cardinals training camp. Talked with Marvin Harrison Jr. I have some thoughts on him. And also the NFL has kicked off tonight, and I have some strong opinions on, you guessed it, Caleb Williams. So let's start there. So the NFL season has started officially on August 1st, Thursday. This may come out on Friday morning, so I might be just a little bit behind on that retrospect. But either way, the NFL is here, it's coming, and it will be here throughout the duration of the fall and most of the winter and up until about late February. And kicking off the season, kicking off the Hall of Fame game is the Chicago Bears, and everyone is so excited every single year to have football back until you remember that preseason football is literally the worst. The Chicago Bears are not playing anyone worth noting. It's Tyson or Tyler Badgett. I would really worry about correcting that name, but it doesn't matter because if the Bears are starting Badgett, their backup quarterback, their season is likely over and irrelevant anyways. But here's what I do want to talk about. Caleb Williams, a guy that I've been highly critical of, probably more than a lot of people have been. I think Caleb Williams, before I really get into my concerns, has all the tools to succeed. I think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks we've had coming out of the draft. He's comped to the Trevor Lawrences, the Andrew Lucks. Clearly, only Andrew Luck has really panned out to this point. Trevor Lawrence isn't a bust, but he isn't exactly what we all thought he was going to be coming out of the draft. And Caleb Williams has set a very high standard. And everyone is very high on the Chicago Bears. And I'm just not there. I'm just not there on the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, I think, is going to be awesome. And it's never been the tangibles for me in Caleb Williams that I'm worried about. Crazy talented, arm strength off the charts, accurate, seems like a brilliant kid, at least on the whiteboard. The thing for me has always been personality driven. As a quarterback, you're just graded more harshly. I couldn't care less what the wide receiver of a team does, or a cornerback, as long as they're not hurting anyone, or an offensive lineman. They're not the leader of the team. They might be a part of the leadership group, but they're not the leaders. I've once called Caleb Williams the first taste of Gen Z. I put that out there on social media, and it did bonkers numbers, just crazy engagement. And for me, it's never been about, is Caleb Williams going to be a bust? I don't think that's it. Part of being a quarterback is getting your team to buy into you. Justin Fields is not a capable starting NFL quarterback. But man, did the Chicago's Bears roster buy into Justin Fields. And I said it for a long time. The fan base even bought into Justin Fields. I was like, okay, you can like the person and still realize the player is awful. And that's what Justin Fields was. Caleb Williams is clearly superbly talented and way more talented than Justin Fields was coming out of the draft. It's always been the personality. It's always been the personality. Now, we've seen that recently there's been some good PR in Caleb Williams, but he's the first real taste of Gen Z in the NFL. Not literally. Clearly, Gen Z has been in the NFL for a couple of years now. But I mean the stereotypical Gen Z player. This guy already has his bag. He could never work out in the NFL. He could flop in the NFL. He will never have to work a day in his life. There's no pressure to succeed because if you don't, you're worried if you can feed your family. And that's where a lot of the greats come from. A lot of the greats make it out and are amazing because it's out of necessity. They have to succeed. There's no plan B. It's the Bronny James to LeBron Jr. comp. I think LeBron James knew he had to make it out. That was his plan A. There was no plan B. Bronny James, he's got a safety net of his father hanging under him for his entire life. He's not worried about what's going to happen next if he doesn't make it in the NBA. Similar to Caleb Williams, he doesn't make it in the NBA, or if he doesn't make it in the NFL, it doesn't matter. He made on average $7 million a year in NIL. He's set for life. He's fine. That's an insane number for a kid coming out of college. That was unheard of. That was illegal like 5 years ago. But now it's different. The game has changed. You're not coming in to the season as a hungry player just looking for that next contract. You're not coming as a player who's just looking for that next contract. And then Caleb Williams, he's done some strange things. Losing a third game and crying to your mother in the stands in front of everyone was strange. Painting your nails, I couldn't care less what anyone does with their nails. If they're a quarterback, you have to just acknowledge it's different. Caleb Williams writing F Utah on his painted nails. You just have to be honest. It's different. Most quarterbacks aren't doing that. It's a different way to be yourself in the NFL. And that's him. Maybe he's just being authentically himself. But I'm not sure if that kind of behavior and that kind of personality is going to jive in an NFL locker room. Is he going to be able to get players to buy into him like Justin Fields did? Part of the NFL is not just how good you are on the field, it's how much do people like you off the field. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl, and the players hated him. They went after him consistently. And that dynasty, quote unquote, didn't last as long as it should have. Russell Wilson at one point was a top 6 quarterback. His teammates could not stand the guy. They won less than they should have. Should have 2 Super Bowl rings. They have 1. That's obviously a clear good accomplishment, but it should have been more. Part of how dominant and how great you can be is how good you are in the locker room, how much of a leader you are. Caleb Williams at times not answering to the media in college when he hasn't done squat in the NFL, crying to his mother, painting the nails, it all just screams for more attention. I don't know how well that's going to work in the NFL. I don't know, and here's my biggest question. I don't know if Caleb Williams knows how to lose. His entire career, from Pee-wee up until college, he was the most talented quarterback in the room. He's the most talented quarterback on the field. He won all the time. He loses a couple of games at USC. We see what happens. He cracks. Instead of being the leader, he was crying in the stands. You can defend it all you want. We can all agree that was strange. Tom Brady wasn't doing that. Patrick Mahomes wasn't doing that. It's strange. And now you add the factor of, in the NFL, what happens if he goes on a 4-game losing streak? Rookie quarterbacks, although Caleb Williams is in a very different position, meaning he was walking into a pretty good situation. But most rookie quarterbacks are walking into a team that isn't very good. They lose a lot. How's Caleb Williams going to handle that? My thoughts on Caleb Williams have never been the dude can't play. I've seen him. The arm angles, the arm talent, the accuracy, the guy can play. My questions have always been, is the way that he conducts himself going to work in a locker room? We've seen him cry in the stands. We've seen the painted nails. We've seen the F Utah on the painted nails. It's different. It's not what everyone else is doing. He's trailblazing his own route, and it might work, but we don't know if it's going to. We've never seen a player with the personality like Caleb Williams walking in with as high as expectations as he does, trying to make it in the NFL. It's just different. It's what my main concern has always been. A guy that has won everywhere And the second he starts to lose, he's crying in the stands. How is that going to work in the NFL? I think these are all more than appropriate questions to ask for a guy with as high as expectations as Caleb Williams has. This is the part in the show where I get to rave or talk about the Arizona Cardinals. As I've told you guys many times, but the channel keeps growing, I'll repeat it. Credentialed media member, I cover the Arizona Cardinals, cover all Arizona sports for Fox Sports 910 AM, and I just got back maybe an hour or so ago from Cardinals training camp. And the main outlook today was a little bit more of a slower day on Cardinals training camp. They have fast-paced, what they call it, hard, medium, easy days. Today was probably a little bit more of an easier day, a lot of scrimmaging, a lot of route running, not as much craziness that you would expect from a typical training camp day. But we were given a little bit of a treat as the media. I didn't realize until I showed up that Marvin Harrison Jr. would be speaking to the media. And that's where I want to really hone in just a second. So I'll put a pin in that. I am thoroughly impressed by my couple of times going out to training camp. I'll be there the rest of the week as well. I'll be there at the red and white scrimmage as well. I'm thoroughly impressed by the maturity of this team. I wasn't out there for the Cliff Kingsbury stories. I can only be told the stories of them. I can only be told of what had happened and how different it is now. I've never seen a dysfunctional organization up close and personal like I am seeing a competent organization up close and personal in Jonathan Gannon and the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals clearly made a statement in free agency and in the offseason and in the draft this year. You better be no nonsense. You better stay healthy. And you better understand it's a we, not me atmosphere. Kyler Murray has understood that. A guy that was completely what was seen as selfish, bratty, immature at times, has flipped the script completely. He's not snippy with the media. He's happy to be around. It seems like he realized he doesn't have to be a life preserver anymore for the Arizona Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim. And that's what has been my main takeaway. Being able to sit up close and personal, hearing the players talk, seeing the players interact with fans, seeing the players talk with the media. I'm not one to wave the pom-poms around. I have, at times, advocated for coaches to be fired, advocated for players to be released, held players accountable, held Kyler Murray's feet to the fire. I think it's important as well to outline the positives and the negatives. The biggest negative I've seen from training camp is physical, meaning the defensive line is terrible. I mean, it is awful. It can't be understated how bad it is, especially on the edge. It's not horrible in the interior. It's probably average and then TBD on Darius Robinson. But the edge rushing room is not great. Hopefully Nick Rawls and Jonathan Gannon can figure that out. And maybe they do. Everything else has been a positive. Everything else has been perfect. Everything else has been exactly what you wanted to see from an organization that has no expectations this year and is trying to take the NFL world by surprise. And that's exactly what the Arizona Cardinals have done. They've been mature. They've been held to a different standard. And they don't care about superstars. They don't care about stats. They're looking to get the players that will change the culture in the locker room because it was so toxic for so long. It's why Kyler Murray had to flip a switch. It's why they went after guys like Darius Robinson, which was looked as a stretch in the first round, but he never gets injured. He only cares about football. And the free agency acquisitions we saw, everyone they got, either high character, never injured, or contain both of those attributes. That's what the Cardinals went after. And they're a team that is setting a new standard. I can only tell you about Camp Cliff and all the issues that they had, whether it was snack breaks on the sideline, phone breaks on the sideline. There was the joke that it was called Camp Cliff, almost like it was just a hotel and a stay in a resort, and sometimes we worked. It's different. Jonathan Gannon just commands a locker room, just commands players better on the field. It seems like they respect him, and it's fun to be able to see Monty Ossenfort on the sidelines, and you're wondering what his next move is going to be and not worrying about how Steve Keim is going to blow it. Here's the one thing I'll say, and I've said it a few times. The Arizona Cardinals, under this regime, Jonathan Gannon, Monty Ossenfort, they might never win a Super Bowl, but they were always going to be a competent organization. They're always going to be to the likes of a Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, always competent organizations, and that's what matters. That's all you can ask for. Just give your team a chance every year. Now, are they going to have down seasons? Sure, but it's not going to be like the old Cardinals. This team's different. It's just different. And that brought me to my last point. I mentioned earlier, the Arizona Cardinals were given all the media members a treat today by allowing us to sit and talk with Marvin Harrison Jr. And I'll be honest with you, he didn't say a ton of things worth noting. I posted everything on this YouTube page, on the shorts, everything that he had said. There's things on Instagram. Just look for Ben Garcia Show on any social media platform, including YouTube, and you'll find all the things that he said. But my biggest takeaway from Marvin Harrison Jr., that in a consistently diva and diva-oriented wide receiver world in the NFL, constantly getting their bag, constantly telling everyone how great they are, constantly selling themselves, constantly getting advertisements, Marvin Harrison Jr. is just different. You know, I related him to his father, Marvin Harrison. I said he's just a chip off the old block. He's very similar to what Marvin Harrison Sr. was all about. Reserve, quiet, do the work, and just be an awesome wide receiver. It's tough not to see young Larry Fitzgerald and Marvin Harrison Jr. He even kind of looks the part. The short dreads, the yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am attitude. No trash talking coming from Marvin Harrison Jr. He mentioned that today. Always praising everyone else, not trying to take the spotlight, just wants to go there and work. And it was one of those things where back when we were deciding what should the Arizona Cardinals do in the draft, I was advocating for trade the pick if you can get a haul. Now, a haul was 3 first-round picks, so I wasn't just trading that pick just to trade that pick. But if you sent me back in time and you said 3 first-round picks, would you do it? After talking with Marvin Harrison Jr., after getting an up-close and personal look with Marvin Harrison Jr., I wouldn't. The guy is Larry Fitzgerald reincarnated, at least as a personality type. Can he live up to the Hall of Fame expectations? I don't know. That kind of feels unfair to put on someone. But the way he answers, his mannerisms, the yes sir, no sir attitude, the always always taking blame and giving credit, he's exactly like a young Larry Fitzgerald. And I think he couldn't have landed in a better organization in the Arizona Cardinals than to take care of him. And being able to be mentored by his father, Marvin Harrison, is just going to add another extra layer of awesome to Arizona Cardinals wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's exactly what the Cardinals needed. To the point where I don't know if we could go back in time, you could offer me anything that I would take it. Because being there, being up close and personal, seeing what not a lot of the public gets to see, he is all about ball. He is nothing about himself. Now, there's news outlets and stuff out, guys trying to spew his personality one way or another because his jersey isn't out for sale yet. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. Everything he does comes off as authentic. And it fits the culture of this locker room. And it fits the narrative of players that the Arizona Cardinals, Monty Ossenfort, and Jonathan Gannon want. I don't think they pick Marvin Harrison Jr. if he doesn't fit their culture. He fits it to a T. And the Arizona Cardinals are going to continue the good times rolling because of Jonathan Gannon, because of Monty Ossenfort, because of the maturity in the players. But a big, young, bright spot is the wide receiver that's going to grow up in this organization with a connection to Kyler Murray that will be one of the most dangerous in the NFL. And that's the main thing that I saw from Marvin Harrison Jr. and the Arizona Cardinals. Thanks so much for tuning into the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. However you're watching, however you're following, Spotify, Apple Podcasts for free on the iHeartRadio app. We appreciate you putting a face to the voice. And if you're watching on YouTube, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm Benjamin Garcia, and until next show, it's been the Ben Garcia Show.